If you are struggling with weight loss, weight management, even just belly bloat can be an issue if you're a woman in midlife, this is for you. I'm going to talk not about all things to eat because that's such a big, broad topic, but I'm going to talk about if you tend to skip breakfast, you skimp on breakfast, or you have a high carbohydrate breakfast, or coffee, just coffee till noon, and you call that intermittent fasting, this is for you because that can actually put your body in stress. When your body's in stress, you're in fat storage. There is no way for your body to both be in fat storage and fat burning, so you have to choose. I'm going to talk about how to fit protein in starting with breakfast because it sets your tone for the day. I'm Debra Atkinson, founder of Flipping 50, the home of the first and the only exclusively made for menopause fitness membership in the world. So let's tackle one of the hardest meals of the day. So, you know, if you have a salad and you've got a chicken breast on it or a salmon, or you're making a soup, maybe it's a hearty chili or a beef stew, it's probably easy for you to get your protein in, both at lunch and at dinner. But where women struggle is getting high protein early in the morning. And you want to focus on high protein early in the day and high protein at that last meal out of the day. As yes, I always hit that across the board. Here's why. When we're in midlife, first of all, we're losing muscle faster than we're gaining it. We've already been accumulating losses for about 20 years if you're 50, 30 if you're 60, and so on, because we begin to lose muscle mass at 30 faster or easier than we gain it. Now, if you've been strength training all that time, eating high protein all that time, you're less at risk. You lost less, but some of us can't say that. So this is really important that you know yours have a strike against you possibly, okay? We can catch up, let's reverse it, but just think about, I've got to do something now. Number two, we fast overnight. Ideally, all of us are doing that. And I don't mean if you're doing intermittent fasting. If you're doing that too long, in fact, it may backfire for you and you really need to check in with that. A continuous blood glucose monitor can really be insightful because if you're fasting too long and your stress level begins to go up, you'll see it. Your blood sugar will go up even if you're not eating anything. And that will tell you that it's actually backfiring and your body is wasting your muscle. It's going to the muscle. It's not going to burn excess fat when you're under stress. That's an eye-opener, right? So you need to know that. Your muscle could waste away because you don't have enough in to fuel your exercise, but also if you're not even exercising. So overnight, we have this time where there's no protein going in to support the muscle. Now, obviously we're sleeping, we're not burning a lot of calories, quote unquote, but there's a lot of repair going on. So it's important to realize, okay, wait, my body is still processing, and if I'm building a stronger body and I have more muscle, I need to realize I've still got to treat that body like it's processing and there's work going on. So you want to break that fast with a high protein meal. Very low carb, you don't need them in the morning, but all of you who may be coasting through breakfast and having nothing or having coffee, which could be worse, until noon could actually do yourself some harm. If fasting is working for you, what I would suggest is consider turning the dial. Eat earlier your last meal of the day and break that fast in the morning. For females, particularly more than males, for midlife females, most of all, making sure that you're stabilizing those blood sugars, stopping muscle breakdown is really imperative. So let's get to what do you eat, right? So here's the thing. What you want to make sure is you get a really high protein meal. So a minimum of 30 grams of protein is the threshold that you need. 30 grams of protein, what does that look like? An egg has 6 grams of protein. So yep, if you were getting your protein all from eggs, then you've only got 2 eggs in that breakfast, you've got 12 grams of protein. If you're having the eggs and you're gonna have some turkey sausage, you can probably more easily get to that point. You could have leftovers for breakfast, but I will tell you one of my go-tos. So this is something that I will do before I do a strength training workout, or before I go out and maybe I'm just doing a long hike today. It's a recovery day. It's just fun. It's not about time or distance. It's just because it is a perfect time in Arizona to go before it gets too hot. So this is one of my newfound loves. And this is from Silk, the brand. It's a Greek style yogurt. So compared to dairy, it doesn't have, like Faye is a brand that is very high in protein. It's got about 20 grams. And yet I don't do dairy anymore. I haven't since I was about 30. And the reason is inflammation, phlegm, congestion, my skin got better, and everything is better. And yes, there are certain things in dairy you need, but calcium is not one of them, by the way. So that's for an entirely different video. But what I will do then is put in a serving of Flipping 50 protein. So I'm using a plant power today, and that is pea protein. So it's 97% pea protein, very pure. There are fewer than 5 ingredients in it. You can pronounce them all. That is the only reason why I made it after 30 years of swearing. I'm not going to do that because it's clean. I also am using creatine. So I am using that to maintain muscle and make it easier to gain muscle when I am strength training. There's a lot of research on it. It could upset your stomach if you're very delicate, and what you want to do is add it slowly if you are. Now, I will also add other things to increase the protein content. So you could do hemp hearts, or they're often called hemp seeds. 3 tablespoons of that adds 10 more grams of protein. So that's one option. I'm adding collagen. Now I want to make the clarification. If you only added collagen and collagen peptides, you're not actually helping your muscle. It's not complete. Some will say this is complete, but the profile is lower. So it may have all 9, but it has just a smaller amount of all 9. If you were going to have a steak, or you were going to have a bison burger, now you've got a profile that is up here comparably to the very low amino acid profile. Each and every one of those is much higher. So calorie per calorie, you're getting far better micronutrients and macronutrients both when you eat animal protein. That discussion is for an entirely other day, okay? But what I'm doing is stirring my protein powder into the yogurt, and it's vanilla yogurt. I prefer it for, and so does our entire community. Just, it's a little lighter flavor. You can do so much with it. I could make it chocolate if I wanted to for breakfast. I'm like, thank you, but no. But you can make it berry. You could stir in something else, like a little bit of nut butter. You could stir in nuts and seeds if you want to. So I've got that stirred up for the most part, and then I'm just gonna whisk it. Because yes, I could do this in a blender, but when it gets really thick, for me, it's, you know, it sticks to the bottom, it sticks to the sides because it's really thick, and I just prefer to whip this up in a bowl so I can eat it with a spoon. I will top it with a few berries, and that way I'm not wasting any of it by leaving it in the blender. And that, so my protein is about 21 grams of protein if I just do a serving. The collagen added another 10 grams. I just did 1 scoop. I could have done 2. This alone wouldn't count, but I'm adding it to the protein. So all the essential amino acids, that content just went up. This is vital proteins. This is just another one. And then I put in a little bit of milk. The Silk is 10 grams of protein. The milk is just almond today, so minimal amount of protein. If it was coconut milk, I add 5 more grams of protein. So into here right now, I've got about 40 grams of protein. That's a great start. I'm gonna do that before, and then after I will either have, potentially I'll have another smoothie, or it's time for a meal. It'll be time for lunch by the time I'm done. That's a great way to start your day. Other things, again, you could do eggs and sausage. You could just do leftovers. We're the only country in the world, by the way, in the United States that does quote unquote breakfast foods, but unfortunately they are all higher in carbohydrate. that's going to elevate your blood sugar. Even if you have oatmeal and you stir in your protein powder to it, that still is a high carb meal. Now, relatively, it gets better when you bring the protein in. It won't spike quite as much, but you're still not helping yourself. And if you're insulin resistant or more likely to be, and for women in midlife, that's true for all of us. We have to be observant of what's happening. And am I gaining weight? And is it just relocating in belly fat? That's a good sign. You're probably a little more insulin resistant than you were. Most of us will be because of the hormonal changes that occur. So a few less carbs, not no carbs. We need them for a good mood. We need them for pooping. And that's the way to look at what ideally how you start the day. That's how I start the day. That's just one idea for how to start the day. So experiment a little. If you tolerate dairy or you want to continue to do it, this could be a dairy Greek yogurt. Fage is my favorite, not associated with that brand at all, but it's the highest in protein. And you may tolerate it because it has live cultures in it. I find that some of my clients do. If they reintroduce dairy at all, it is just that way, or maybe aged cheese, and that seems to work as long as they don't do it every single day. Let me know if that helped. The kitchen, this is where the magic happens. So I'm gonna show you, I've just made a grocery store run, and here's how I'm stocked up for the week, but I actually never let myself run out of protein. I mean, it's just a bad situation, right? So we're gonna look in the freezer first. I like wild meats when I'm looking at what do I want. So rather than choosing beef and or chicken very often, what I tend to do is I choose these. This is ground bison, this is ground venison. So if I am looking to make a burger, I do that rarely, but actually make a lot of ground meat options. So I'll throw these ground meats. I will do bison chili for myself, or I will do taco meat with either of those. And here's the deal. You're not gonna taste it. It's not gamey. Actually, I prefer the taste of bison meat over beef. The other thing I do have in here though, let's not ignore this, is frozen shrimp. So it's already frozen cooked. So this is fast food when you are like, I don't want to do anything else. I'm gonna thaw that under running water for about 5 minutes. I might eat it cold, chop it up, put it on a salad. I might do it with lower sugar cocktail sauce, or I might just stir fry it to heat it. It's already cooked, but toss that with zucchini noodles and do a little pesto and toss that, done. So nice. So here's the real load, all right? So this is already cooked. So we did that earlier this week, and that was just a Mexican chicken. I don't do chicken a lot. It's kind of got a funky little protein in it that isn't great. So when you do choose it, I would make sure you're doing hormone-free, antibiotic-free, pay attention to how it was raised, just so you're getting the best out of what you do have. But pay attention to your digestion, elimination, and your energy levels as well. So other sources of protein that actually I just purchased, these aren't even made up yet. Scallops, one of my favorites. So simple, you're done. I just saute it in a little ghee and garlic and a little salt and pepper, and it's a few minutes on each side. Boom, delicate. And this one is cod. So often I'll get a pound of cod. Yes, I live alone. But the whole point is really, you know, I love to make food in advance. And if you're eating high protein, I will probably go through that in about 2 days. Cod is just very fluffy and very light. It's actually something that I would do in the morning. I would do it as a breakfast, eating lunch or dinner for breakfast. Here's how I make it, one of my just super simple ways. So cod takes on the flavor of almost anything you cook it with. I think it's kind of bland all by itself, but I put taco sauce over the top of it. So I will choose a very low sugar roasted garlic, so it's got a little bit more flavor. And then I will sprinkle plant-based cheddar cheese over the top of that, bake it 400 degrees for 20 minutes. comes out, makes the house smell amazing, and have it with a tossed salad, your vegetables, some kind of healthy protein or carbohydrate mix. I like black beans when it's a theme for Mexican. Super easy way to do it. So you can see in here, I also have 2 things of eggs. It's kind of halfway in between for both. I don't eat eggs a lot, but as you and I probably both know, it's just an easy go-to. So I will scramble eggs. Remember, 6 grams of protein per egg. So it's not unusual for me, if that's gonna be my meal, to actually use 5 eggs. And I will do that. I have no problem with that. And you wanna remember some of the things we used to think were correct are no longer correct, and yet it's really hard for us to get them out once they got in here. Eating foods that have cholesterol in them do not elevate cholesterol levels. So if you're thinking, well, I can't do that, you know, my cholesterol is high. We actually did an experiment with one of our grad students back when I was teaching in kinesiology at Iowa State University, and he was practically living off of eggs, like up to 35 a day. Like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, he was having them constantly. His numbers actually improved, and he was doing a lot of strength training as well, as many college males do, and that improved as well, because it's a great source of protein. You just want to be cautious about doing it if you're sensitive at all. It's a high sensitivity food. So if you start having skin issues, gut issues, obviously back off, consider eliminating, totally testing them, but they're a fantastic source of protein and an easy, quick fix for a fast dinner at very little skill level. I don't use milk when I scramble the eggs. It's just the egg, stir it up, salt and pepper, boom. I might put a little salsa on top of it, might put a little plant-based cheese, because as I've mentioned, I don't do dairy, but those are great sources of protein. And I know a lot of us can rely on dairy products like milk and yogurt and cheese are also sources of protein. But if you eliminate those, it is still extremely easy to get adequate protein in. And if you focus on animal protein and the rest of your diet is very rich in plant-based, you balance the acidic property of animal protein and become more alkalinic, or encourage an alkaline environment, probably better said, so that you offset that. And prior studies, so I'll throw this out there. One of the things I talked about in my book, You Still Got It, Girl, and this was 6 or 7 years ago as I was first releasing that, is that prior studies that have said, oh, all that animal protein leads to cancer. Here's what some of those studies, and the reason it was true for those studies, they showed that those studies were often done and they were polls of people. So they were just going out and saying, tell us how much protein you eat, and then looking at what was their risk later of mortality due to cancer. And that's a little false information, because what you don't know is, let's say you're going to a grocery store where you can choose antibiotic-free, hormone-free, free-range, all of the things that are grass-fed, grass-finished, and higher quality of proteins. Many of the people in those surveys were paid to participate for those surveys. So the quality of the meat that they may have been eating may have been bologna and hot dogs and lesser qualities, not organic, not grass-fed, not grass-finished. They may not even have been aware that those things existed and made a difference. So nitrates in their foods, as opposed to what you might consciously be doing in nitrate-free, those are just all things to think about. This is by no means meant to be a persuasive argument, trying to get you to go one way or the other. I don't have anything to gain by doing that, but I think it's a great food for thought for you to consider. Is there really still a link to a high protein diet? And if so, how is the research done? And is it looking at the rest of the diet and the rest of lifestyles around the people who were the subjects in the study? So just an idea, conversation for us. So drop a comment below if you've got one.